and it is the end of July 23rd, 2019 at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And let's see, today we're going to talk about lead scoring. And I want to just start at the beginning. There's actually a couple of different ways to do lead scoring in Ontraport. But I want to, before I start talking about that, just nail down why we do lead scoring, what it even is for. And for many of you, it's not something you should probably be bothering with. But for those of you that, particularly those of you that want to integrate manual kind of one-on-one parts of your steps in your sales process, it can be really useful. And particularly if you are doing internet marketing and you're generating a list that is larger than you're going to call every person, right? So if you're not going to call every person on your list and you need to figure out who on your list should you give the most attention to, that's kind of where lead scoring comes in. For some of us, it can be really interesting and valuable. At Ontraport, we have hundreds of thousands of names on our list. We've been growing it and nurturing that for a long, long time, obviously. And there are people that have been on our list for who knows how long, years and years, right? And it may be, in fact, it likely is, that there are people that joined our list ages ago that maybe for whatever reason, they just wanted an ebook or it wasn't the right time, they didn't sign up for an Ontraport account. Or maybe they did and they canceled and they're just now, an old lead on the list. And then all of a sudden, they might start poking around, start clicking our emails, start downloading new resources, start visiting our website and clicking on different pages and looking at the pricing page. Things that would indicate to a sales rep, if they were looking at it, that this is somebody who might genuinely be interested and worth giving a little more time to. And you'll never find those people because they're buried somewhere in this list of 100,000 names, or even if it's 1,000 names, you're not going to find those people. I mean, you can, if you clicked on the contact record, you can go in and see that, yeah, this person's been visiting and they've been clicking and they've been downloading or whatever, but it's hidden in the contact record. And so what lead scoring is it's a way to kind of uncover those active leads that are on your list and bubble them to the top so that you can then give them some attention, take some action, and follow up, and hopefully get some value out of those people that are maybe thinking about it but maybe need to have a conversation, or they need to even it can be just an email. Hey, I noticed you're poking around the website. Any questions I can answer? Something like that. So that's what lead scoring is. That's why you would want to do it. Again, if your sales process is 100% automated and there's no time that you're going to get involved in a manual way, that might be something you not need to bother with. Also, if your lead generation process is such that you end up with a small number of leads and you're just going to hit every one of them, you're going to call every lead that comes in, or you're going to email them, you're going to engage them, then again, lead scoring probably doesn't matter so much. But if you're like us, like many of our customers, you end up with a big list and you nurture them over time. Finding those diamonds in the rough can be really valuable. So there's two ways to set up lead scoring in Ontraport. And let me just say before I dive in to that there's kind of two parts to the lead scoring game. The first is to get a score, right? To set yourself up so that you have a score for each contact. And then the second question is, well, what do I do with that score once I've got it, right? Because we do want to automate this as much as possible. What we don't want you doing is like sitting there every day, like having to check the score to see if there's anybody new on the list or whatever, right? So we want to automate that process of when people do bubble to the top, that somebody's, the system is going to grab somebody's attention and focus them on that lead. So 2 steps: create the score, then we'll work on what to do with the score. So with regard to creating the score, as I said, there's 2 ways to do that in Ontraport. And there are pluses and minuses of both, and I'm just going to go through that. So the traditional way of doing it is you go into contacts, and I believe, let me just see, there's probably not lead scoring for non-contacts. Okay, so that's one of the drawbacks of the first way, is that you can only do it for contacts. But for many cases, that's fine. You go into settings, and you'll see down here there's a feature called lead scoring. And let me just explain how this works. You just basically add conditions, just like you would group conditions or whatever. And you can add a condition, select anything, whether they've purchased a product, whether they've visited your website, whether they clicked an email, all kinds of stuff, right? You can add a bunch of conditions here. And so in this case, it says has visited any landing page greater than equal to 1 time. So that's going to give them a score every time they visit. So if it's the 3rd time they visited a landing page, the 4th time, it's going to give them 1 point every time that happens. If you want to only give it to them the 1st time they visit a particular page, any landing page rather, then you could set that to equal to 1. But in this case, since we're choosing any landing page, you want to give them the score every time. And then any email click, I've given them some credit for clicking an email here at least 1 time. Give them a point for that. What is this? I don't even know what this is. Let's say we have a pricing page equal to 1 time. And they get that, we can even say greater than equal to 1 time. So pricing is going to get a little more points from me, right? I give them 10. And just FYI, these are some pretty decent settings to start with. The reality is that the process of figuring out what scores are going to be relevant to your business is a little bit of a trial and error. And so this is a good starting point. Give them a point for every, or 10 points, whatever you want. Give them a point for every landing page visit, a point for every email click. Don't do opens because a lot of what you'll figure out very quickly is that a lot of your contacts use inbox tools like Outlook or Gmail or whatever that automatically open every one of your emails. And sometimes they open your email 10 times. And so you're just going to get these crazy scores from people, and you're going to go in and you're like, wow, they open every one of my emails 10 times, and you're going to get thrown off. So don't use opens, but clicks are typically more legit. And pricing page, if you have key pages on your website, that can always be good. Sometimes people will use their thank you pages. Like if they download an ebook, you can say, well, if they visited this thank you page, or if they filled out this particular form, you might give them 10 points or, like a little more, that kind of stuff. Now you'll notice I've got one last one on here, and this is if they've spent greater than equal to $1 on any product, then assign them negative 1,000 points. Okay, so what is that? That's just saying to me, if they've already bought, then this is a sales process that I'm going to use this score for. So I don't want my customers at the top of the list, because I've already, they're on to the next phase of the life cycle. So as soon as they buy, I want to kill their score because I don't want them bubbling up. Does that make sense? So that's why I've added that in there. So you can continue to add conditions to this list. Now here's the benefit of using this lead scoring functionality that's built in to the system in contacts. The benefit is that the system, this is retroactive, and the system will go back through history and look at the logs of all of your contacts and look at what you just set up, your scores, and it'll recalculate everybody's score based on this new setup right here. And so that's pretty cool. That's a good reason for using this particular kind of scoring. Be aware that process is slow. The reason is that the logs, because most of this stuff is going to show up in our database and in your interface, it's going to show up in the contact logs, the automation logs, stuff like that. And it just takes a long time for the system to churn through. We have so many logs. Your account, if you've been around for a while, it could be gigabytes of data, most of which is in those logs. And so it's just churning through. So it can take, it would take hours, I would assume, if I messed with our big account to update those. So don't expect that to happen instantly. But it will happen, and then it'll update regularly going forward. And so that's pretty cool. And then let's see what this score degradation here. This is valuable. And what this means, and I guess let's see, maybe there's a good pithy explanation here. Let's read what it says. It says score degradation, lead scores degrade over time. You'll need to set up and adjust score degradation, which is how much of a percentage of the contact's lead score will go down every day. The reason to degrade a score is to reflect that new activity is always more valuable than old activity. That is, 10 web page visits today is more valuable than 10 one-page visits from 3 months ago. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Obviously, you want to have a higher score for people that are new. So what we do is we look at the activity that has composed their score, and we just every day we take X percent, whatever you put here, 5%. Start with 5%. So in 20 days, a good score is going to go back to 0. Some activity is going to go back to 0 after 20 days. That's interesting, right? You can make it less if you want to. You can make it 3% or 2% or 10%, whatever you want. If you make it too big of a number, then you're just going to see who clicked an email today. So you don't want to make it too big. 3% to 5% is what I would recommend. 1% to 5%, somewhere in there. Now, one of the things to appreciate is that you could, as part of your lead scoring conditions, put in field values like criteria about a lead. So it's not about activity. These are all sort of activity things. But you could say, email contains gmail.com, or you could say role is executive, or role contains VP, or something like that if you're looking for business buyers. So those things obviously don't degrade. The fact that somebody is an executive is not less valuable 3 months from now than it is today. So the values on here that are created based on attributes of a lead will not degrade, but the activity will degrade. So that's just how that works. Now, downside of lead scoring is basically two things. One is that it only works for contacts, which for most of you is fine. The other thing is it's a bit of a black box. There's no kind of way to figure out why a lead score has the lead score that it has, right? You can't, there's no part of the system where you can say, like, show me why this guy has a lead score of 1,072. And so that can make troubleshooting a little bit weird. And so people call up and they're like, why is the lead score? And we can kind of like, kind of poke through a little bit with you. But in general, you just got to trust us. This system's been around forever. It's been around for a decade, probably. We built this a long, long time ago. And it's pretty bulletproof. So just be patient when it recalculates scores. If you come in here and you make some changes and save it, it's got to recalculate the whole thing. So just be patient for that. And then you're just going to have to, trust that it's working, right? So I'm not going to save these changes because I don't want to deal with recalculation right now. But, and here's what you end up getting. Now, unfortunately, this is my demo account, and so I don't have real activity on here. There's a bunch of nonsense data. But here's what you get, is you get a field which you can add to your column editor. So just remember, this is how you change your columns on here. You click here, and I've got this field called score. If I removed it, I could click add and just type score in here. And oops, not that one. Add score. And then just drag that to the top. And then that's what I would have. Okay, I'm going to cancel that. And so what does this mean, what it says here? It says 1, and then there's a parentheses, 100%. And then 1 in a parentheses, and 89%, 87%. So what that is the score. 1 in this case is the score. And then the next number is the percentile. So percentile, for those of you who don't remember math, it's the, what is the actual definition of percentile? It's the number of contacts that have a score less than this one. The percentage of contacts that have a score less than this guy. That's what it is. Now, this is going to look a little weird because we have like 3 ones, and probably in reality in the database, this is like, you know, 0.92 and this is like 0.75 or whatever. So ignore the fact that this seems a little strange, but that's like this 0 here probably got rounded down, so it's probably like 0.15 or whatever it is. So the percentage of your database that has a score lower than this guy. So if you 100% is always the number 1 and stuff like that. So it gets like, again, it gets a little weird when you have so little activity on here. But you'll see it'll eventually go down to 0. There's probably some negative numbers in here if I keep paging through. Yeah, and nobody has a worse score than these people, so yeah, that's just basically what that is. Okay, so the key number though that we're going to work with right now is the lead score. So that is one way to get a score, and these will just update all the time. Now, there's another way to create lead scores, and that is to use a feature that we actually built much later on. And it is to do with, and you do this with campaigns and custom fields. So what you would do, and I've probably got it in here, I go to my contacts, and I even have a campaign here, I betcha. No, not that one. Maybe if I add a new campaign, there's a lead score campaign in here. So create a new campaign, we'll load this up, and I'll search for score, and I'll look under all templates. Come on, there's gotta be one here. None. I know there is though. Where is the score one? Maybe, oh, I know what. Scoring? Yeah, that's not good. Oh, because it's S-C-O-R-E, yeah, different. Okay, so scoring, simple lead scoring, advanced lead scoring. Let's see, what's the difference between these two? Okay, it says here to try the simple one first. I don't know why I've built 2 of these. Let's find out. So this is adding our campaign content to our account. Okay, now it's ready. I'm gonna click start editing, and in we go. So, notice here that you got instructions on how to set this all up. Oh, no. Okay, sorry. This is using the original score. So let's go back and let's go to advanced lead scoring, and we'll give you a better example. Scoring, advanced lead scoring, continue. Okay, now we're going to edit this one. Now, here we go. So again, instructions over here. So if you get lost, just follow those instructions. But this is totally different. How this works is that we're going to create a custom field, which was probably just created for us automatically when I inserted this. When I created this campaign. It's called custom score, and then this one has a parentheses 2 around it. That's because I already had a field called custom score, probably because I already installed this campaign, or maybe I was the person who created it, I don't know. But I already had a field called custom score, and so when the campaign created a new field, it called it custom score 2, so that just is what it is. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a custom field. It's a numeric field called custom score, or whatever you want to call it. And then we're going to take and use triggers for the things that we want to score on. And then we're going to use math field editing to update the score. So what this says here is, so what does this say? It says contact visits a web page, right? So this is a raw URL, but I could go pick a different a web page. Contact visits a landing page. This is just warning me that I don't see a tracking script on a blank page. I'm going to remove that. So landing pages, maybe it's this guy here. Welcome. They visit this welcome to Ontraport page. Great. And when that happens, what do I want to do? Well, they're going to get triggered here. Let's remember to get any contact in the account and move here when they're triggered. That's got to be those settings. And then what do we do? Well, we're going to update the contact. What field are we going to update? We're going to update custom score 2. And how are we going to update it? We're going to call it custom score. This is not, I'm going to actually just change this to make it clear for you. to the original field that you're going to get. It's going to be called custom score. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to insert a merge field, custom score. So what is it going to equal? It's going to equal what it was before. So that's the custom score plus 10. So I'm just going to add 10 points to whatever was in that field before, and that's going to be my new value. And so there we go. They visit the page, they get 10 points, and boom, and they're ended right there. And then they'll wait for the next thing to happen. So they click any email. Link 0 means any link in the email. And then we're going to give them 1 point for that. And then here we have visit a particular website, whatever it is you want to do. You can create anything. If a field is updated and it equals executive, their role in a company is updated and it equals executive. They purchase a product. Lead score equals lead score minus 1,000 points. So you can set up the same stuff as a bunch of individual triggers. Then you just update the contact and put an end in there. Publish that campaign, and boom, you've got custom lead scoring. Now, what are the advantages to this? Just a couple. One is that you can build this in any object. So you could make lead scores for your deals. You could also make lead scores for your companies or whatever it might be. So that's handy. The other reason that this is kind of cool is that you can see how a lead score was generated. You can see it in performance mode in the campaign itself by looking how many people have done these things, clicking on it and getting a list. And in an individual contact record, you can go into the contact record and you can go to the automation log and you can search for the field custom score, and it'll show you everything that updated this guy's custom score. So that's pretty trick. And the downside of doing it this way is that it's not retroactive, right? It's going to work starting whenever you publish this campaign, and so you can't go backwards in time. So now you know the pluses and minuses of building lead scores in different ways. You can choose how to do it. Both are good. Hopefully there's no questions about that. It's relatively simple. If there's any questions about that so far, we're good. So now the last part of the conversation is, well, what do we do with the lead score once we've got it? Okay, so couple of things to do. One thing to do is to notify yourself or a sales team member, right? And so that is what's happening here. And what does it say? It says every time the custom score is updated. Let's see, I'm going to add them here. I'm going to add them here again. Yeah, I could just add them here again. That's probably what I would do. Any contact in the account. So anytime a score is updated, I can add this person here again. Or I can probably move them here too. Either way will work. Doesn't matter. So when the field is updated, then I've got a condition. And what does the system do? Well, it's going to check. Is the custom score greater than or equal to 50? That's just a random number. I don't know yet what my custom scores are going to look like over time. This is a little bit of trial and error, right? You might find that the way you set up your rules, that you get 1,000 contacts that hit 50, or 10,000 contacts that get scores of 50 right away. I know that in our account, our Ontraport account that we use to run Ontraport, we have custom scoring, and there's scores are in the thousands. And we have many customers. Like if I put 50, it would be most contacts in the account. So that wouldn't make any sense for the way I've got it set up. So you're going to have to just kind of figure out what makes sense for you. Yeah, so the question is the custom score greater than or equal to 50? If yes, or if no, then just I'm not going to do anything about it, right? If yes, then I'm going to assign a task to the team, and the team might be, hey, reach out to this guy and take a look at their contact record. They got a high lead score. Maybe this is somebody you want to get in touch with. Or maybe you send them an email that says, actually, you know what? You wouldn't want to, you want to be careful not to assign 10 million tasks, because this is going to get hit a bunch of times, right? So, and you don't want to send a bunch of emails over and over again. So you might, you just want to set your campaign up in a way that you don't end up, repeatedly doing that. How could you do that? You could put this in another put this in another campaign and set it to only people, to ignore this trigger once it is, once they're on the map. Or you could say, you could add them to another campaign. Instead of assigning a task right here, you could add them to another campaign that sends the email, and they won't be added over and over again. A lot of different ways to manage making sure that this doesn't fire off over and over again, but just be conscious of that. You don't want, this thing's gonna get triggered a lot because the lead score is gonna constantly be updating with new activity. So it's gonna check and check and check. But at any rate, you can use use the yes side of your condition here to notify somebody, or to send out an email or whatever, maybe a special offer, something like that. Another thing that would be kind of cool to do is to update a color field in the contact record based on the scores. So what if I had a color field? I'm going to create a new field. Watch this. Watch this. I'm going to create a new field that's going to be called lead score color. And I'm going to create it as a color field. I'm going to add the options, and I'm going to have black be low score. And I'm going to add another option. I'm going to have be medium score. Medium score. I'm going to change that color to like, what, yellow, orange, something like that. And then I'll add another one, which is high score. Oops. And change the color to what, red hot, right? Red hot lead, something like that. You can make it green, whatever you want to do, whatever you like. And we're going to save that, and then save my changes, and wait just a second. It's going to take me back to where I was, and now I've got this color field in here, lead score color. Now, what I can do here is set up a series of conditions that says, hey, this guy's got over 50, now they've got a medium score. And I can set up another condition that says, well, is it over 100? If so, give them a high score. And what do I do with that? Well, of course, I am going to use that in my card view. I can put it here in contacts, and I can put the color field on the thing here, lead score color. I can put that right here. Save. And of course, nobody's going to have any values yet, but if I get in here and I change the values, then that would happen automatically with my campaign. And I come back, you'll be able to see that this guy's got a high score. Obviously, also if I put this into card view, I can sort this by lead score color, put that guy there on my situation, and I look at this guy here, and I change this to high, and what am I going to see? I'm going to see that I have a color of quick visual reference for the lead score of this contact right here. And again, you wouldn't want to be managing that manually. You'd set up a campaign so that every time the lead score is changed, so when the lead score is updated, there's a condition. Is it below 50? Is it between 50 and 100? Is it above 100? And you set the colors appropriately, and then just keep that running. And then you'll have a situation where you've got a visual indication of the lead score of your folks. And so your sales reps might be able to manage them a little different or know exactly who to focus on. So there you go. That is what lead score is all about. It's why you do it, to find the diamonds in the rough that may be buried in your list. You get it done either using the advanced method, which is with a custom field and some math and campaigns, or else you use the built-in feature in contacts, and that'll kind of deal with it for you. And then, use campaigns to automate what happens next when those lead scores are changed, and you should be able to find some really good opportunities that may be buried in your list. Thanks for joining. We will check you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Thanks a lot.